Hey, today I'll teach you some art tips and tricks that I know, okay? And I know that my art is on the basic to intermediate side, so I'm in no place to make a tutorial yet. But as a self-taught artist, I have watched countless hours of art tutorials and also realized some tricks myself. So I'll tell you all of those to you today. And if you follow everything in this video, you should be able to draw anything you want, okay? So, whether you are a beginner or a pro artist, you need a reference. Especially if you are a beginner, you need a reference so that you don't end up learning the wrong thing. References also help you understand anatomy, values, and even if you don't understand anatomy just by looking at references, it helps you figure out the shapes you need for your drawing. Now, talking about shapes, figuring shapes out from your references is one of the most important steps you need for an amazing line art. And an amazing line art is the foundation to an amazing drawing. So you see how that works. The basic shapes are circle, triangles, squares, and rectangles. Every single reference can be blocked out by these shapes. So as you can see in this example, you can basically trace everything back to these four shapes. Now, these shapes may not align perfectly with their reference when you create large shapes, but using different sizes of these shapes will align with more of its details. Now, you don't have to limit yourself to just these four shapes. You start out with these shapes, and to create more detail, you can use more complicated shapes like quadrilaterals or pentagons. The idea is not to block it with basic shapes. It is so you can see the basic shapes in your references. Now, after you've done that, you should be able to see the resemblance between what you've got and your reference. Now, all that's left to do is connect your loose shapes with line art, where you can use curves and straight lines so all the details line up perfectly. Your line art may not be an exact replica of your reference, and it does not have to. It just needs to recreate the likeness of your reference, or just create something that's good enough for you, or it's just what you pictured in your head. Now, if you are a beginner artist, there are so many different aspects to what make a digital art good. There's line weight, colors, rendering, lighting, bounce light, values, and as a beginner artist, it's understandable that you might get overwhelmed when looking at all of these things, and you might get hopeless. So to avoid that, you need to tackle one thing at a time. So from what I've said so far, you've already got line art covered, and now all that's left to do is coloring and rendering. So you either choose colors and focus simply on creating the values you see on the color spectrum, and you either don't render or do a very basic rendering. Or you can either choose rendering and focus on that and color pick the colors directly from your reference. For coloring, you need to focus on the largest colors first, and you put down those largest colors. After you've done that, this is your base. Now after this, you need to block out your shadows, and you need to just block out shadows by keeping the lighting in mind. You might see some bounce lights and subsurface scattering on your references, but you need to ignore these. After your basic shapes are done, you have created the simplest form of your reference. Now this is the point which makes your art look polished. It's the same idea. You focus on the largest detail on your reference besides the main color and shadow. So these might be hue variations, highlight, and you can either block these out using a lasso tool and then blend these out together, or you can block them and then blend them as you go on. Keep in mind, do not blend these too much or they'll get muddy and have that pillow face syndrome. Blending modes is really helpful for creating effects like add mode for glowy highlights or hard light for rim lighting. But in my experience, blending modes are amazing after you've already had somewhat of an idea about drawing digitally, because you can get too dependent on them too quickly, like I did when I was starting out digital art. I always used multiply for shadows and color pick the skin tones as the shadow color. Now this might help you on some instances, but it's not always how shadows work. It's dependent on the lighting, the environment, and all of that, and that's just not how rendering works. So I'd say as a beginner, you need to do all of your coloring and rendering in preferably one layer, kind of staying true to the traditional art, but these modes do help you add that little oomph as like kind of a post-production-y thing after the basic drawing is done. Now this is some extra tip for you. This is not something that I came up with. This is one tip that I saw from another artist on how to add color variation as a beginner. Now this is a cheat code that isn't actually using your skills, but you can learn from it by studying what colors appear and what works. You do this when you have your basic drawing done, you duplicate your layer, invert it, and keep blending mode to hard mix and reduce its opacity. Now you can tweak this and make it more saturated or change its hue and do all that kind of thing depending on what looks good. You do that by going on to your hue and saturation settings, and you can play around with it a lot until you come up with something that you actually like. Now there are lots of different things that you need to learn when doing art, but at the end of the day, you just need to have fun. As beginners, you can get sucked into the rabbit hole of perfectionism. After seeing all the professional artists and their art, you might feel like you'll never get there, and you might just get stuck on the loop of watching tutorials and not actually start drawing. But take this as a sign to just start your art, dive head first, just do your thing and learn along the way. After you have been drawing for about a year and then you look back at your art, you will see differences, you will see growth. And even if you don't, if you are able to see the mistakes that you did 1 year ago, then that means you have way more observational skills to be able to point out those mistakes instead of thinking that it's the perfect thing that you've created. Because at the end of the day, if you don't start, then you're never going to improve. Art is all about creativity and expression, and you can do that regardless of what stage of art or artist you're on. If you followed everything that I've said in this video, you should be able to draw anything you want. Just look around, pick a random object, and then start drawing. Like I told you, start with basic shape, do the line art and everything I told you, and you will create amazing art. Thank you so much for watching my video. If you like this video, consider subscribing, and if you don't want to subscribe, I hope you had as much fun as I did creating this video as you were watching it, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.